Hello, friends. The 662nd day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Over the past few days, the Russians have attacked Avdiivka near Kupiansk and the Kharkiv direction with armored columns. German military observer Julian Rock wrote yesterday that 9 Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers are attacking Avdiivka. A massive ground assault is underway for the second day in a row. The Russians are serious about attacking Kharkiv. Let me remind you that Avdiivka is a fortified area of the Ukrainian armed forces covering the eastern part of Kupiansk. Today it became known that the defense forces repelled all attacks by Russian troops. A video has appeared showing how some Russian vehicles were blown up by mines, while others were destroyed by a Javelin anti-tank missile system. Rock calls this another meat assault by the Russians. In general, the recent picture at the Kupiansk site, according to Western experts, looks as follows. According to the press officer of the 26th Kalashnikov Artillery Brigade, the Russians concentrated about 80,000 troops in the Bakhmut sector. Russian publics claim that their troops continue to advance at Avdiivka and Romovy near Bakhmut. The enemy advanced in the area of the Autodrome on the northern flank of the Bakhmut direction in an area up to 270 meters wide to a depth of up to 150 meters. On the southern flank, Russian infantry groups are conducting assault operations in the area of Dachas and the Klishchiivka fortified area. According to Western experts, the overall picture at the Bakhmut site recently is as follows. In the Avdiivka sector, the battle for Avdiivka continues, where the Russians are still trying to close the cauldron around the city. On the northern flank, active hostilities continue north of Stepovy. Enemy troops attack from positions west of the railway in the direction of the forest belts. To the west of the industrial zone, Russian troops advanced along Yasnovatsky Lane and in the area of the Garden Partnership in an area up to 540 meters wide to a depth of up to 350 meters. Russian telegram channels claim that the Ukrainian armed forces have transferred reserves to the Avdiivka direction. In general, the recent picture, according to Western experts, looks as follows. In the northwestern part of Mariinka, infantry groups of Russian troops continue attacks along Ivana Franka and Perizhka streets. The situation is currently being clarified. The Russians are also advancing on the village of Novomihайлivka, south of Mariinka. To the southeast and northeast of Novomihайлivka, active hostilities continue on the approaches to the populated area. The enemy managed to occupy several Ukrainian positions. According to Western experts, the recent situation here is as follows. In the Zaporizhzhia sector, the Russians are seeking to retake territory that was liberated during the Ukrainian counteroffensive this summer. Western experts are recording the progress of the Russians here. The 47th Brigade, which led the offensive in the Zaporizhzhia region, suffered heavy losses. This was stated by soldier and presenter of Ramadsk Nezdilov during a podcast. At some point quite quickly, she became one of the bleeding brigades, the fighter said. According to him, the entire infantry of the Ukrainian armed forces is deadly bled. Those specialists who were there a year and a half ago are no longer there. Either they are completely demotivated, or they are very tired of the war, or they are dead, added Nezdilov, recording a podcast with attack aircraft of the 47th Brigade Nazarenko. He agreed with the thesis expressed. And he said that one of the reasons was the underestimation of the opponent in all the moments that exist. He recalls what planning on a grandiose scale looked like on the eve of the counteroffensive in May. A battalion here, a battalion there, stood on the defensive. After that, the 10th Corps comes in, starts doing its job, and we follow. There were bravado things, but when in fact normal brutality began, then everyone began to see the light, added Nazarenko, and said that after the first failures, his battalion's commander was changed. Only after this, with the losses, some kind of active promotion began. But even after this, losses were high due to mines and shelling from the Russians. I then realized that this movement is like in Call of Duty. Units are dying left and right, the attack aircraft added. He calls the time of the counteroffensive 3 months of a meatpacking plant. In general, the recent situation, according to Western experts, is as follows. It is difficult to make any statements about the situation in the Kherson direction near the village of Krinky. In fact, conflicting information comes from there. Recently, materials with comments from Ukrainian fighters from this site have appeared in both Western and Ukrainian media. Judging by their words, the situation there is very difficult. According to Western experts, the recent situation here is as follows. Ukraine is building 3 lines of defense and will abandon offensive actions in winter. This was stated by People's Deputy Ustanova. According to her, such a scenario is being prepared in case of problems with Western military assistance. If there are no weapons, we are already preparing. We are building fortifications, 3 lines, understanding that perhaps in the winter we will have to switch to a defensive war and not go on the attack, as was before, the People's Deputy said. She added that even if assistance is allocated to Ukraine, the world will still run out of shells. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, one of his party's main proponents of aid to Ukraine, said that financial support for Ukraine in the amount of more than $60 billion would be considered as early as next year. According to him, negotiators working on a border agreement with Mexico are still far away from a final resolution and that it will move on to next year. Graham added that the White House border proposals do not propose a policy change on this front. At the same time, Presidential Economic Advisor Ustenko said that Ukraine has a Plan B in case Western financial assistance is stopped. If this support does not come in the first days of January, this means that we need to move on to Plan B. Plan B may be multi-level, but I believe that at the first stage it will be enough to turn to the domestic market for borrowing capital and get funds on the domestic market, Ustenko said. He believes that the authorities will be able to resolve the situation throughout January. Ultimately, Ustenko is confident that there will be money. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.